Hey guys, today is a very special day for me. I've been watching Gianni sign the purple brown belt, and now I have a chance to chat a little bit. One of the best American in Jiu-Jitsu of all times, in my opinion. Gianni, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, we go way back. I think we've seen each other on the scene. I remember since like 2010, 2011, those purple belt days. Me and Marcio all the time back in
Yeah,
the day. So yeah, I always remember those days for sure.
yes, man, yes. Gianni, I would like that you start to talking about your recent participation at UFC BJJ.
hmm
How was for you this experience?
It was a very unique experience. It was it was different because it was a very much based on a show. It was not your typical tournament. You were kind of thrown out of routine. We were disconnected from the rest of the world for like a week or so. Like we didn't have access to our phones, so we had no contact with anyone. So it was a little difficult to deal with, but it was definitely like a unique experience. I think I would do it again if I could. It wasn't like my favorite experience of all time. It was a little strange at some points, but it was a cool experience for sure. Obviously, the result didn't go the way, but I had a good time overall.
And
hmm
Gianni, if you can compare this experience at the UFC BJJ that with another tournament that you fought, that you participation to, how can you balance UFC BJJ with another tournaments, professional tournaments like ABI, Flow? How can you describe?
Mm, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to do that because it was just a completely different experience altogether. I can't really compare it to anything else. Now, if I was on one of the regular UFC BJJ cards, then maybe I would have like a better answer for you. But this was all like, a lot of the stuff that you saw was staged. A lot of the training that we were doing, a lot of the stuff that you saw on camera, it was all kind of staged. Where obviously, when you do who's number one, when you do one event, when you do anything else, it's all kind of real. Whereas the show, everything besides the match, but everything besides the tournament and the matches themselves felt kind of staged. So that's why I say it was a very unique experience because it was definitely something none of us were used to because we're used to just kind of being in our own element, our own routine. We kind of had to be in a completely different routine because it was based on what the producers wanted to show. So that's why it was completely unique.
And about your performance, how you felt
Hmm.
there? How and now how can you analyze more your performance? What did you feel?
Yeah, so I think I had the toughest first round draw. I had Carlos Henrique in my first match. Obviously, he went on to win the whole thing, and I knew he was going to be very tough. But to be honest, I think what was almost a problem for me was I remember he was wearing like two knee braces, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna leg lock this guy. So that was my only focus was I'm like, he's compromised or something like that, and he was doing a very good job dealing with leg entanglements, but I was too overly focused on trying to get the finish, trying to get the submission. I was working on these leg locks. I've been trying to do them for a while, and I really felt confident that I could get it, but I was too focused on just getting to the end point and not focused enough on the proper steps to get there. So I was trying to attack the legs, but not trying to off balance him. And I think what happened was I tried to attack a leg and he was able to pass off of it because I wasn't focused on off balancing first. And then that's when he started getting around me and he got I think he got an anaconda or a darce on me. And with his long arms, it was very difficult to deal with, obviously.
I listened to your recent interview that you talking about uh, like fight not alone but without a coach because the Harrison didn't speak too much in English.
hmm
Do you think this change the fight for you or not? But if you have a coach there, will was better.
I I never like to make excuses, like at the end of the day, you're the one that's in there and you're the one that has to perform and to make the adjustments that you need to make. Um, but looking back at it, I mean, it definitely helped. You know, Mikey was able to speak Portuguese to Carlos, so I wasn't able to kind of read what he was telling him. Mikey was very good at being like, very precise with him, and I think they even had like good game plans where I had a game plan for myself, but it would have been nice to have someone on the outside that really understood my game plan as well. And I'm sure if Harrison had someone that was Brazilian and they could speak the same language, I'm sure he would be able to do much better. But since we spoke different languages, it was just there was a barrier there, and
Yeah.
that made it difficult. Like I say, end of the day, no excuses. I feel like it's always on me to perform. I don't want to rely on my coach, but at the end of the day, it was a little bit of an added advantage for the other team for sure. I felt.
Yes, yes. And I agree with you too. Make a difference in the big
Hmm.
stage. If you have someone to like help you to fight, make a difference.
Yeah.
And for you, do you have plans to come back to UFC BJJ, or do you have another opinion about the exclusive contract? Today we have a lot of different vision about in for grappling this moment. How do you think about this?
So I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of in the middle because I understand both sides of it. Where one, if you're locked into an exclusive contract, maybe you're stuck and you're not able to. There's other opportunities that you're not able to take advantage of. But also for me, like I didn't mind the idea of getting an exclusive contract, to be honest, because getting these matches and all these different organizations is very stressful. It's not easy. You're constantly like having to promote yourself to get on this event, to get on that event. To be honest, I still want to compete, and I would like the ability to have some stability, to know like, okay, I'm gonna have X number of matches with these guys. It kind of makes life a little bit easier, but I do understand how also at the same time exclusive contracts make it difficult for where like if CJI comes out and maybe they'll someday they'll have a bracket my weight category, it would suck to be in a contract where I can't do that, especially if it's possibly a million on the line.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like I understand both sides of it. It's nice to have some stability, but it's also nice to have the freedom to choose other places to go as long as you don't get too stressed out about trying to hustle for it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think for now athletes are getting more chance than before or not?
Oh,
For you, it's the same.
absolutely. I mean, I think we're getting a lot more opportunities. It's still got a lot to grow, but there's always room to grow everywhere. But yeah, we're getting a lot of opportunities. I mean, this year alone, I've been able to compete at AIGA, which was really cool. I competed at one. I competed who's number one. I competed on the UFC show. Zapatero, which was kind of an unknown tournament, but that was for 100 grand as well. So I mean, a lot of opportunities. That's five, different events, and it's not even September yet. So there are a lot of opportunities for athletes out there. Um, and all have their goods and bads, you know. But it's good to see if you're consistent with it, you can like make good money off of it these days. You just like I say, you gotta hustle. You gotta be ready to go back and forth with a lot of different things.
Yeah. Now you saw. Now I saw that you're going to compete at the ABI again.
Hmm.
How your how it's your training right now?
Yeah, for EBI, it's pretty much the same. I've never actually done an EBI before. I've done events that were in the same rule set, but never like EBI rounds themselves. Or an EBI event itself. So it'll be a little different. But I'm excited about it. It's another opportunity, and also I know many people are like they don't like the EBI overtime. I honestly kind of like it. It's a 10-minute sub only. I feel good at being able to get submissions, and I feel pretty good at being able to, you know, not get submitted.
Yeah.
And then I remember I didn't even train the first time I did like an EBI type tournament. I didn't even really train backgrounds, but I was training with the Meow brothers at that time. And I remember those guys were just on my back all the time. So my back defense just became really good just training with them all the time. So overall, like even though I'm not used to the rule set, everywhere the match goes, I feel very comfortable with it. So I feel good about it. I like my chances, and I know it's a stacked bracket, but I always feel very confident going into those.
Nice. Is this the tournament that they allow the people slap the other's face?
Oh, thank goodness. No, 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 no.
No.
It's not it's that's a so it's the same event, but that's combat jiu-jitsu.
Ah, okay,
And
okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
when I got invited, Eddie was like, it's not combat jiu-jitsu. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
It's better. It's better. It's better.
Yeah, yeah. I maybe I want to do combat jiu-jitsu maybe once in my life before I'm done. And then but probably no more than that.
And Jean, you started jiu-jitsu very, very young. What motivates you to dedicate yourself too early to the sport? And how you see the new generation today that you can maybe inspire some of them?
So, sorry, going back on that question again. What was like my
What
motivation to start young? Sorry.
what motivates you to dedicate yourself so early?
Hmm. What motivated me? Just probably parents that helped push me into it. I probably wasn't super motivated when I was younger, but I had good parents who didn't pressure me into training, but they kind of like just guided me in the right direction. You know, I said, "Hey, stick with it." You know, they weren't bad in any way. They treated me very well, and they never forced me to do anything. But they definitely like helped guide me those first few years. And then as I got older, I started appreciating the sport more. I started falling in love with it more. It wasn't just something I did for fun. It was something I really had a passion for. And then they were able to kind of take the reins off, and I was kind of able to go on my own and make it and be able to take care of myself in the sport. Um, and just the second part of your question is, sorry.
That we have a lot of young stars, American young star today.
Hmm.
And if you can look back, who is more or less than today? We have too much more athletes, American athletes that have a potential to be a black belt world champion. How
Yeah.
can you see this? Because Americans can be a big force in jiu-jitsu in few years.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome to see, and I I don't know if I'm answering your question properly, by the way, but what I see is that like kids take it seriously even younger these days. So like I think I did pretty well overall when I was younger, but even then I was still going to school. I went to college even when I was at black belt and everything like that. But I see it's impressive to see these kids getting so good because I think they take the sport more professionally at an earlier age. I probably didn't take it professionally until I was a few years into my black belt career, you know. So what I just tell kids is just to be consistent, be dedicated, you know, show up every day. Um, you know, don't think you can. I one thing I always say for myself is I never missed more than like a week, you know, unless it was for injury or something like that, you know. So I never really gave myself times away from the sport. You just got to stay consistent at it. That's the biggest thing. You don't need to have these big camps and then go away forever. You know, I like to always throughout my careers just stay consistently training, so I'm always prepared for anything that might come up. And I think that's really important for young athletes to focus on. Don't have like a roller coaster schedule. Continue to just maintain consistency throughout the entire year.
If you remember your beginning in the black belt level, how
Hmm.
was how you prepare yourself to be good, to be great, to get the gold medal at Pan Americans, Europeans, Nogi Worlds? What you can talk for the peoples that we are is watching us?
Hmm. Whew, what did I do? You know, the first few years, like I think I always did fairly well. But I definitely had my ups and downs, especially earlier on. And I think it was because my first few years, I mean, obviously, guys like Rafa Mendes and Cobrinha and Marcio and Paulo, all these guys were amazing that I was, you know, losing to a lot. And I think the reason why I was struggling against some of the best guys was because I was trying too much to be very much like them. You know, I wanted to be like Rafa Mendes. I wanted to be like Cobrinha. And when you try to emulate or you try to be like the people that you're competing against, like people you look up to, but then you're competing against, it's never going to be the same. And I remember what started clicking for me. I think I won Nogi Worlds, I won Kasai, a couple other things. And I remember what really changed for me and what really made like kind of got me onto another level was that I really just tried to focus on being myself. I didn't try to be anybody else. I just tried to focus on being the best version of Gianni Grippo. And I think that's what made the difference. I always used to try to not copy, but like, I don't know, just try to do what this guy was doing. I'm like, oh, he's training like this. I got to train like that. He's doing this technique. I got to do this technique. No, it's like whatever works best for me. So I think as soon as I started focusing less on the competition, the better I started doing because all I did was just focus on what's best for me. So yeah, you could tell guys, train multiple times a day, do these strength conditioning sessions, eat right, sleep. A lot of high level athletes do that, but the big difference was just kind of the mindset there. I felt like that kind of took it to the next level.
Do you think some athletes don't focus on take care about mindset, mental health before the
Mhm.
competition? It makes too big difference for you?
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. You could do everything right in the training room. You can be training 2, 3 times a day. You could, like I say, eating right, sleeping right. But if your mind's not in the right place, I've seen so many athletes that were so good, so talented, but they just didn't have the confidence in themselves. And you'd see that in their performances. Like they'd be the best guy in the training room, and then when they compete, it'd be completely different.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, what I do like to say is that I do feel like you're always training at a higher level than when you compete. It's hard to get to the level that you train at because there's a different intensity, there's a different pressure. But what I try to tell people is like, how much can you close that gap, right? Sometimes there's a wide gap between how well you train and how well you compete. But if you can close that gap as best as possible, you're probably going to compete super well. But yeah, there needs to be an emphasis on focusing on your mindset. For a big thing for me was I talked to a sports psychologist for a long time, and he definitely helped me navigate through struggles that I had in competing and just kind of like preparing and having confidence in myself. And having him on my side definitely helped out a lot. Sometimes more so than the training. That was the most important part of my training for the week was sometimes talking to someone who could help me out mentally.
Yeah. Sometimes we saw a good, great brown belt that won everything in the majors, but when these athletes change for the black belt, we can see him performance as we saw as a brown belt. For you, what's make a difference between two states? Brown belt, good level, and black belt is not tough top black belt. What for you
Mm.
happens this with some athletes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know exactly the answer, but a few things I can think of is one, I mean, I think black belts, they're just really smart, you know? You could be very talented, you could be have I remember Michael Lengi telling me this, and this was after I lost to Marcio one time at Europeans. And I remember he said, because I was so frustrated, I felt like I had some good moments in the match, and Marcio was just very, very smart in the match. He played the game well, where I felt
Yeah,
like I felt like I had good opportunities to score. And Michael's like, it's not always who's the most technical in the match, it's the one who plays the game right, who's the smartest. And I feel like there's a lot of and obviously Marcio is very technical too, by the way. But I also it sometimes it's just about who plays the game right at black belt. Sometimes the brown belts just like to scrap, and
yes,
they'd like to fight. But a lot of black belts with a lot of experience, they've been there time and time again. They know how to play the rules right. They know how to set their own pace, get into the positions that they want. So like someone else who was very technical or very smart was Tanquinho. Now Tanquinho, he's also very technical, but I think what helped him win so much is he was one of the smartest guys I ever
yes,
competed
for
with.
sure.
Super smart, knew how to play the game right, knew when to get to his spots, stuff like that. And that's why he was so hard to beat. So I think that's a big thing, being able to go from just being able to scrap and be super technical to being able to be smart when you compete. Now, another thing is when you get to black belt, like there's just so many of them, you know, and sometimes when you get to black belt, it could be overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I got this guy in my division, this guy, this guy, this guy. And I think sometimes maybe taking that step, taking that level up can be a little overwhelming for some athletes. And that's where the mindset approach needs to come in, you know, because it can be a little overwhelming when you see all these big names in your bracket, you know.
Yes, yes. And how you face this? Because you told it already, to see a lot of big names in brackets and go there with the mindset sharp to beat someone of the best in the bracket. You
Mm.
did this. You won the Nogi Awards. You won the Pan American. Or a lot of good tournaments, super fight. If you can explain it. Tell for us how you face this when you go into the tournament and see. Today I have three big matches until the gold medal. How
Yeah.
you face this challenge?
So a couple different ways with that. One is actually, and it's kind of weird. I kind of liked it when the brackets were more stacked because I felt like it put less pressure on me. You know,
Yeah,
when there's so many guys, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go out there. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna one match at a time, and let's see how it goes. You know, I kind of didn't like it when I could tell that I was one of the favorites in the bracket because then I would start putting pressure on myself. I remember there was one pans that I won, and I could tell like I think I was number one seed, and it wasn't like super stacked. And my dad was like, "Oh, this division's yours this year." I'm like, "Oh, don't say that because it's tough. I don't want that pressure." I actually liked it when there was more big names in it because I'm like, "All right, the pressure isn't on me. I'm not expect. Of course, I expect to win, but it's not like expected because there's so many people." And when there's a lot of guys, like I say, you just got to take it one at a time. Like I wouldn't think 3, 4 matches ahead of time. I would just have to focus on the first one. Like focus on the first
yeah,
one. That's all you can control is who you're facing that first match. And when you deal with that, then you go on to the next one. You have to, when it's a stack bracket, you have to like break it down into smaller parts. If you look at the whole picture, it's very overwhelming. It can break your mind. If you look through like what guys have to do to win ADCC, how many tough guys they have to beat to say win an ADCC, it's crazy. So you have to just think of the first match and break it into smaller bites so it's like more digestible. And from there, it becomes a lot easier mentally.
yeah. And another thing that I would like to listen about you is your opinion. Who play? Who is the athlete that play smart test more than the others today in the black belt in your vision?
Today, who's the smartest?
Yes, who play more smarter than the other? The others one.
I don't know. I don't know, man. There's so
Who you
many.
see assim, who you see that when you see the people fighting, you see, man, these guys today is different if you compare it to another athletes pound for pound.
To be honest, I think guys are. I don't really notice how smart they are. I just notice how talented they are. I don't. I think the talent is really starting to take over to where they don't have to be like Fabricio Andre, Samuel Nagai, Isaac. I think those are like three of the most talented guys. And I'm missing a ton of guys too. Obviously, I would say Pato's smart, but Pato submits guys, so it's not.
Yeah,
It's hard to. It's
that's
hard
so
to.
smart.
It's hard to say that he's smart because he wins decisively all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a great question. All I can think of is the guys that are really talented. Those are the first.
Maybe if you can choose one guy that if you put the guys one example, the guys are featherweight, and if you put this featherweight in the medium heavy, absolutely he can play so smart with the other athletes. Who you
Hmm,
see like this? Maybe Mika, that he's a medium lightweight
yeah,
that can fight very very well with the big guys.
yeah. I mean, he would definitely be one of them. I'm trying to think of someone that would be like in my weight class though. That would. I mean, I still always say. I know he's at Masters now, but I always still say Joao Miao. You know,
Joe, yeah, yeah,
I
he's
I
Max.
he's I know he's doing Masters Worlds. He's fighting Rooster weight, and I never know why he cuts weight because I'm like this guy is so good. His
Yes,
guard
man.
his guard is ridiculous. Just every part of his game is so strong. I'm always like, why does he even cut weight? He could probably do lighter middle and be just fine if he wanted
For
to.
sure.
I don't know why
I agree.
I don't know why he kills himself to make weight, especially at Masters. But go ahead. I mean, whatever. But like his game was always very smart, very calculated, stuff like that. But I know there's other guys I can think of. I'm just drawing a blank on that.
Yeah. And Jana, I was reading that you watched Jacare against Roger Grace in Brazil back in 24. And
Yeah. I was there.
and did that moment inspire you a lot? Can you tell us what you felt watching that fight and how it influenced in your path in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Man,
So going.
so great to see this.
Yeah, that was we talked previously about like what motivated me to take the
Yeah,
sport seriously. That I always tell people that was probably the moment that did it for me. The sport was still in its very amateur stage back in 2004, but being at the Tijuca Tennis Club at 2004 Worlds with Hadra and Jacare and just seeing the energy in the building, it was crazy. I had never experienced. I'd only been training for 2 years. I was 12 years old. I never experienced anything like that. And just the energy of the crowd, just how passionate people were, just seeing those two who are incredibly talented at what they do, just everything about the whole environment. I was like, oh man, this is what I want to be a part of, in some way, shape, or form. And I was able to be a part of it. I was able to compete on all those big stages, of course. So I just wanted to be a part of that for the rest of my life, I guess. Uh, yeah, so that was a big motivating factor for me. Just kind of seeing, like I say, that the energy and passion for the sport definitely fueled my career.
great, great. And who inspiring your game, Jani? Who was the people that you look and I start to study like, well, what did these guys do and I will put in my game as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like looking at guys like featherweights. It was definitely the Mendes brothers. It was definitely Cobrinha. And then over time, like an influence of Marcelo, for sure. So I'd say like a blend of those three guys were very big in my game. It's funny, actually, I haven't trained with Marcelo in maybe 4 or 5 years since COVID, and it's funny, actually, I've adapted more of his game to mine now after years of being away from him, which is kind of funny. I didn't really play his game when I was training with him, but then years later, like I'd play butterfly guard more. I pass with like more body locks. I do shoulder crunch sweeps.
Yes.
I'm like, I would have made him so proud if he could see me now, Now so it's kind of funny how that worked out. But yeah, so I would say those three were like really big influences for me.
You are so famous for your Bimbolo and guard game. How do you
hmm
keep your style effective against the best guys in the world, especially in the featherweight division?
Yeah. So to be honest, I don't even remember the last time I did a Barambolo. It's been a really long time.
Yes, yes.
So what I think has helped is just being adaptable. You know, I always remember seeing this. I always remember seeing when I was at the color belts, my dad and I would watch Worlds every year, watching the black belts. And we'd always see, I won't name names, but I would see certain guys lose to the same guys every single year, and we'd be like, why is this happening? Why do these guys unable to get past this guy, or maybe they'd be even losing the same way? And I realized it was because they weren't willing to adapt. They weren't willing to change their game. There's so many guys that get to black belt and they're so comfortable with what they already know. And they just think that they're all of a sudden it's just going to be their day, even though they do the same thing all the time. And I think what's been able to keep me in is that I'm very willing to try to explore things that I don't know as well, or try new things. So like, yeah, Delhi Hiva, Barambolos, that was very much my game. But now it's become like you'll even find me playing half guard or butterfly or a wider variety, and always trying to find new things that can work and adapt them to my game. I think that's what's made my guard and just made my game pretty stick around for a long time.
It's a very interesting point. Why we don't see too much more people doing Bimbolo at the high last level?
I, I mean, like anything, I think people, you learn it, you do the barambolos, but no one knows how to defend them, because they're new. But then after a while, then they start becoming, the person on top starts,
Yeah.
adapting, finding defenses to it. And to be honest, when I see someone playing guard and I know they're just going to spin on their back the whole time, I feel pretty comfortable. I don't feel too threatened. But when guys are able to constantly invert and then also maybe wrestle up at the same time, it becomes a lot harder because you don't know which way you should be balancing.
Yes.
So if guys continue to just go for barambolas, it's not quite as difficult to deal with because we've seen so much of it. But if guys do barambolas, but they also are able to blend it with wrestling up, going into single leg X guard, whatever it may be, and then maybe going back to the barambolo, it's a lot harder to deal with because they're giving you different looks. I don't think you can just get away with just doing barambolas anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
Do you believe young athletes should they focus more on learning one position deeply or try many styles when they start? For you, what's the better way?
I think when you first start, it's good to work on everything. Find what you like. Don't just focus on just one thing. Sometimes, excuse me, I think when I was at the lower belts, I focused a lot on one thing, and I think my game was kind of a little um, very, very closed off to just a few things, to where I kind of wish I diversified myself more, focused on my passing more when I was younger, focused on my stand up more when I was younger. Things like that, because I was just so like guard Bolo heavy that I noticed I was having a hard time because I didn't really have many other strengths. Now I worked on it and I think I got better over the last few years, but I felt like I was a little behind in certain areas. So I'd always just try to tell people to just work on everything, try to work on as much as you can. As you get in the higher ranks, as you get purple brown, maybe hone in on a few things and make like your game. But especially early on, just like try and fail at everything, you know?
Great, great. And for you, what would be your top three idols in jiu-jitsu?
My top three. You know what? I always had idols when I was coming up, but like when you've been at black belt for a long time and you meet everyone, it's like it's
Yes.
hard. You have like peers. Um, I mean, I guess the first one that always comes to mind was Roger Gracie when I was younger. After watching that Worlds, and he used to come to Henzo's when I was there, and he was just like super cool, and like just how he dominated people, just like such a simple style. I knew I could never be like that, but like I was always a huge fan. So
Yeah.
he was probably my very first idol. Um, can't think of idols. I'm fans of people's games, but idols is a different word. Um, let's say it's and also at the same time, guys who I idolized were like Cobrinha and Hoffa, but then as soon as I competed with them, I couldn't think of them as idols anymore.
Yeah.
It changes that mindset. I guess Jacare was one too. A funny story, like when I was at that Worlds, the next day I ordered some gis from Corral, and I remember they came in the next day, and Jacare was there with his broken arm or dislocated
Ooh,
arm, and he signed the gis for me. And
great.
yeah, that was amazing. That was so
It's
cool.
unbelievable for young Gianni. It was unbelievable for young Gianni.
Yeah, oh, that's what did it for me. Yeah, so he was my probably those two were probably my top two for sure.
Great. What would be your top three? Top three. What would be your top three hardest training sessions ever?
Phew. Uh, yeah, anything with the meows for sure. Um, I mean, they're both tough in their own way. Paulo is incredibly technical. He's always trying to do different things to you. He was always kind of the one that was trying to experiment, which was cool. It was very hard to
Yes.
beat. And but then Joao was always trying to kill you. Like it doesn't matter whether there was a tournament coming up or it was kind of like off season. He was always trying to kill you. So having to train with both of them at the same time was a nightmare. That's like double the misery. Um, the sessions that we had when we used to train together before they opened their gym and we did our own things were probably the hardest that we ever had, I would say. one, two, and three, because we had days, and I don't know what we were thinking, but we used to put the heat on in the middle of summer, close the doors. We just like to make it as miserable as possible. So those were some of the hardest sessions with those guys.
Great. And what are your top three most memorable wins in competition?
Hmm. Yeah, so yeah, it's going back to the Meows again, but probably number one was probably Kasai in New York. That was a cool event, and also it was in my hometown. It was
Yes.
in New York, and so there were so many people from Marcelo's there. And then at that time, that was someone I faced Paulo, and he was like someone that I had the hardest time beating. So to be able to beat him there with my home crowd, my whole family was there. That was probably like my number one. Number two was the first time I won Nogi Worlds, and it was Marcio. I know you don't like that as your guy,
No, no,
but
no, no
but
problem.
but I remember he was another one where it was like, man, this guy is like impossible to deal with because he was one that was incredibly technical, but also incredibly smart whenever we fought. So I could never figure out how to strategize for this guy. So when I was finally able to get that win and win Nogi, I would always lose at Nogi Worlds. So finally be able to win that was a big deal to me. Those two guys were like really big obstacles for me. So to be able
Yeah.
to kind of like overcome that kind of gave me that confidence going forward. And I'm trying to think what's number three. Probably probably three was it wasn't the most stacked tournament that year. I think the third time I won Nogi Worlds, but I had just come off a pretty significant injury and I was very like unsure of myself. I was pretty unconfident because I was worried about the injury. I just a lot of like mental struggle going into it. And for me to be able to go out there and have a good performance and win that event again was a big deal because I knock on wood, I've always been pretty lucky. I've never had too many serious injuries. That was the first one I really had. And to be able to come back and win that was super cool.
And now, Jean, you are you building a new gym? Is this or not?
So I work with my coach Kevon Gonzalez. We have a gym in Maplewood, New Jersey, Bodega Jiu Jitsu, and it's a small gym now, but we're looking to like expand it. The gym's growing organically. A lot of students are coming in, so we'll probably be looking for a bigger space at some point. I don't own the gym. I just work with him. I tried to open a gym on my own a couple of years ago, and here in New York and New Jersey, that can be difficult sometimes. And I still have ambitions of competing. So luckily, I teamed up with Kevon, so we can kind of have the balance of being able to run a gym and also be able to compete as well. I still have goals of opening a gym, but I still have competition goals as well. So it's kind of a nice balance right now.
Great. And my last question for you is, what advice what what advice you would give to kids or young athletes who dream of making jiu-jitsu their career?
Um, you know what? I would say like make it everything, but I also don't want kids to make the sport everything as well. Was when your only focus is jujitsu, I feel like it could be very easy, especially at a young age, to burn out. You know, I would say make it your passion, make it the one thing that you do, but try to focus on also having a balanced life as well. You know, I think I used to think that all I had to do was train. I couldn't go out, I couldn't have friends, I couldn't do anything. And yeah, maybe sometimes I compete well, but also at the same time, I think I was kind of miserable too. Um, and for your own mental head, for your psyche, it's not good to be miserable when trying to be a professional athlete. So do prioritize training, take care of yourself, be consistent, show up, but also make sure you can find good balance in your life too. I think that's very important.
Great, great advice, Gianni. Gianni, thank you for this opportunity. It was a pleasure to me
Yeah.
to chat with you, improve my English as well. And thank you so much. To have 3 minutes to say thank you for everyone that you want.
Yeah. No, just shout out to my team, Bodega Jiu Jitsu. We're in Maplewood, New Jersey. We're making New Jersey a place to come, which isn't usually the case, it sounds like. My sponsor's Phalanx. Yeah. And that's about it. I appreciate you guys and thank you for having me, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank
See
you.
you. Os.